Today we're looking at the brand new Sony FE 100-400mm f5.6-8 OSS lens. And I know what you're thinking, a lens of this kind of range is usually pretty big, expensive and heavy enough to leave you needing a rest after carrying it around all day. But Sony's message today is clear. Their cameras deserve lenses that help you capture moments that matter without emptying your bank balance or being super heavy. This compact super-telephoto could be one of the year's most exciting releases for enthusiast wildlife, sports and travel photographers. Before getting started, it's worth mentioning that I had the lens for approximately 2 hours, so this is definitely not a deep dive review and more of a first look. It was actually such a quick time with the lens that I was briefed in the morning, and then around about an hour later I was passed a bag through opening doors on a train whilst I was stood on the platform. I then headed off for a few hours to try out the lens and then returned back to the platform to pass it back to someone from Sony who was on the train like it was some sort of top secret documents. So let's start with one of the most pleasing aspects of the lens, the weight. When you hear the phrase super telephoto zoom, your brain immediately pictures a giant white barrel that practically demands a heavy duty tripod just to keep it steady. But not this one, as the FE 100-400mm weighs a light 654 grams. To put that into perspective, it is significantly lighter and smaller than almost any other competitive models on the market with that amount of reach. It is compact, making it an incredibly convenient travel companion, as you can comfortably slide it into a standard backpack and you'll barely notice the extra weight. Despite its impressively small footprint, Sony is not skimped on the physical controls. On the side of the barrel we have a host of switches. You get one dedicated for the internal optical steady shot or OSS, and this built-in optical image stabilization works in perfect harmony with the in-body stabilization of your Alpha camera, ensuring that even at 400mm your handheld shots remain sharp. There is also a highly practical focus range limiter switch, which is incredibly useful if you're shooting through chain link fences or a net at sports games, or tracking a bird in dense foliage. It physically limits the focus range, stopping the lens from hunting for focus on those distracting foreground elements. And finally, for those of you who like to carry your camera on a shoulder strap, there is a welcome zoom lock switch, which prevents the lens barrel from slowly extending due to gravity whilst you're walking around. Finishing off the physical design, the lens features a full dust and moisture resistance, giving you peace of mind when the weather suddenly turns unpredictable. Of course, a lightweight lens is essentially useless if the resulting images are soft. Sony has meticulously engineered this lens to deliver true optical performance right to the absolute edge of the frame. Achieving corner-to-corner sharpness at long focal lengths is technically pretty demanding, but they have packed some serious glass inside of the barrel. The optical design includes 2 ED or extra low dispersion glass elements, and these are vital for cutting down on chromatic aberration and that ugly purple fringing that you sometimes see on high contrast edges. Alongside the ED glass, it features 2 high-precision spherical elements to correct spherical distortion. With a maximum aperture of f5.6 to f8, you might mistakenly assume that you cannot get beautiful out-of-focus backgrounds. But thanks to the telephoto compression at 400mm and the 9-bladed circular aperture, you get a remarkably smooth round bokeh. This helps to isolate your subjects beautifully, melting the backgrounds away. With a close focusing distance of just 0.86 meters at the telephoto end, and while this distance does shift slightly depending on whether you're shooting wide angle or tele, the ability to get this close to your subject is really good. It helps to make the 100-400mm really versatile, because if you're out photographing birds and suddenly spot an interesting insect or a unique texture on a tree, you can easily focus in and achieve up to 0.41 times magnification. Let's move on to autofocus, as this is one area where people always worry about budget-friendly lenses. Will it be too slow? Will it miss the shot? Well, I'm incredibly happy to say that the autofocus is really fast and precise. It utilises Sony's advanced linear focus motors, which provide rapid and near silent focusing, and this is where shooting with native Sony glass really shows its true undeniable value. If you're using one of Sony's latest bodies, you are going to unlock its full potential. For example, if you're shooting with the A7 Mark V, this lens is fully compatible with shooting up to the maximum 30 frames per second. And if you have the absolute powerhouse that is the A9 Mark III, this lens has the capability to keep up with the unbelievable 120 frames per second. This is a massive point to consider, as many third-party telephoto lenses, no matter how good they are optically, are capped at around only 15 frames per second, whereas this new native Sony lens guarantees that you get the absolute maximum performance out of your Alpha camera. If 400mm is just not enough reach, you'll be pleased to hear that the lens is fully compatible with Sony's teleconverters. If you attach the 1.4x teleconverter, your maximum reach extends to 560mm, but if you really want to push it further, you can attach the 2x teleconverter, effectively transforming this compact setup into a massive 200 to 800mm zoom. Getting to 800mm in a package this small and light is practically a Sony exclusive, and it will open up a whole new world. Sure, the apertures are going to be tight, so you'll want a bright day, but they work flawlessly with autofocus, tracking, and the results are good too. Now for the moment of truth, how much does it cost? When looking at new kit, especially a new tele lens that has weather ceilings, linear motors, and full teleconverter compatibility, I have to brace myself for the price. But not today, as this is the absolute headline that the 100 to 400mm will sell for under £800. Yes, you heard me correctly. This is for a native Sony super-telephoto zoom lens. Sure, it's still a price where you'll have to make a conscious purchase, but it makes it an affordable lens that puts serious reach into the hands of photographers who previously would have had to rely on third-party alternatives. Sony has managed to create a compact, highly capable and extremely accessible lens that fits perfectly into their E-mount ecosystem. It gives you edge-to-edge sharpness, the rapid autofocus and teleconverter flexibility, all wrapped up into a remarkably light 654-gram package. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit subscribe, ring that bell to get notifications on all the latest content. If you'd like any more information, please check out the link below or pop into your local London Camera Exchange.